Yay, Yeezy, Kanye, I don't know what name he's going by, but he's rolling out the sneakers with Adidas. Great collaboration. It's really growing a massive library of sneakers, and people watch carefully. I think the Yeezy 350 V1 is an iconic shoe, but I think the Yeezy 350 V2 is an absolute classic. Personally, I prefer it without the translucent stripe on the side, but even then, with the translucent stripe on the side, it's still a cracking looking sneaker. But then the Adidas Yeezy 350 V3s dropped, or did they? But now they're rolling that back and they're saying, no, it's not a 350 V3, it's a 380. And it's that sneaker, that story, and that cynical take on the story that I have to say, I don't think they're calling the shots quite truthfully over at Adidas and the Yeezy line that we're going to get into today, because I think they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes and they aren't going to get that from me. So if you're interested in finding out why I think they're pulling a fast one over at Adidas and Yeezy, stick around, because that's what we're going to look at in this video as we look at the Adidas Yeezy 380 and its drop date on November 16th. This is a Tokyo Butter 23 sneaker channel. Tokyo Butter 23 sneaker channel des Mainichi Absurdo de Mainichi Mita Consign. Every single day I bring you content from Tokyo, Japan about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, or sneaker reviews. And today is no different, because we're talking about the drop of the Adidas Yeezy 380, which is due to drop on November the 16th here in Japan and overseas. And it's a controversial sneaker because there was talk of it being the Adidas Yeezy 350 V3, and now they're changing it to the 380. So it'll be interesting to see what the reasons are for that, and I will be telling you why I think they've done it in today's video. But before we do that, this is a YouTube channel, and YouTube channels need subscribers and watch time. So please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and watch for as long as possible, because that truly helps. And as I am here in Tokyo, Japan, I do say at the start of every single one of my videos, Toroku yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Nagaku miru to mo tasakaru no de ryoho tomo suru to tasakaru no de kansha shimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu. Zehi toroku yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this thing and look at this sneaker, because there have been more pictures that have dropped, and there's been a change in the kind of I don't know what you'd call it, the sales or the promotional materials. The big change is that move from calling it the 350 V3 to calling it the 380. Now, when I did that video a few weeks ago about the 350 V3, and I was like, oh man, I'm not seeing it, I'm not feeling it, there's too much change, especially in that midfoot, where the midsole usually has a ribbed effect on 350s, and here we are with this smooth effect all the way around. And all of a sudden they've changed it to call it the 380. Now that reminds me of the Ultra Boost. The Ultra Boost is an iconic shoe. Yay! An iconic shoe. These are the, what are these now? Trace Cargo, that's what they call the Trace Cargo limited edition Ultra Boost 3.0, and you can see I've worn these guys pretty heavily over the years, and I've grown to love them actually, with the leather tongue tag on there, and then this interesting what's that called now, heel cup, heel counter on there. This is quite an unusual thing in the Ultra Boost line. Yeah, the Ultra Boost line was the 1.0 through 4.0, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. It's difficult to distinguish between the two. There are some details on there that make it easy to say, oh, that's a 1.0, that's a 4.0. But then when the next Ultra Boost came out, which was supposed to be called the 5.0, there was a massive departure. People hammered them, especially the cage on them, which they didn't like at all. But then Adidas called it, instead of the Ultra Boost 5.0, they called it the Adidas Ultra Boost 2019. And the talk of the town was that they did that so they could preserve the lineage of the Ultra Boost and go back next time and say that this is the 5.0, which will look like what I'm wearing on my feet just now, with not too much of a departure from the previous iterations. And I think that that's what they've done with these, now they're calling them 380s. Because the 350 is iconic and a great looking shoe, and they've realized that they've messed it up, they've ballsed it up going in this direction. What they're going to do is they're going to call this the 380, and then later they'll bring out a 350 V3 that looks more like the V2s and the V1s that have come before them. I did say in that video that it's quite a big departure on many levels from the V2s if this is going to be the V3s. And maybe Adidas watched that, and it was because of me that they decided to make these guys 380s instead of V3s. I can't imagine that's true. But yeah, no. But looking at some pictures here, the video that I did a few weeks ago. There are some things that stand in that don't look like what you're looking at behind me right now. Specifically, the knit on the prime knit on what you're looking at here, and what I talked about before. I think I've got pictures to show you that something has gotten very flat and uniform about the latest images compared to previous images where the prime knit was really sort of a 3D kind of popping out of the shoe, whereas the latest images it's much smoother. And if you take that concept and look at the lacing system, you can see that gone are the rope sort of laces and gone is that kind of exuberant lacing system, and now it's much flusher and much sleeker to the rest of the shoe. So I'm wondering if you know, they're going to call it a 380, tone down the design elements on it, which they look cheaper, if you ask me, without the rope laces and without the pronounced sort of over-the-top prime knit on there as well. So maybe they've just realised that they're going in the wrong direction with the 350 V3s, and they're just going to quickly send this one up and send it right back down again, because it's I don't think it's going to have very much staying power in the way that it is right now. So now the images that you know, I talked in that video about what is the similarity between the 350 V2s and this particular shoe, and most of those similarities are now gone in the latest images. So it's like a completely different shoe, and I think that's deliberate. I think Adidas and the Yeezy line are kind of saying, oh, whoops, we messed up, but rather than just be honest and say, you know what, this V3 isn't going to fly, let's just ditch it and start again. They're pulling the wool over our eyes. They're pulling a fast one. They're trying to trick us by just calling it a 380 instead of 350. But you're not fooling me, Adidas. I can see that you've made a mess of this, and it'll be interesting to see where things go and what actually does happen, and whether a different V3 is going to drop anytime soon. For me though, it's not a particularly nice looking shoe. There is a sort of innovative outsole kind of effect going on under the sneaker, so I'm not talking about that flat uniform wraparound into the midsole. I'm talking about under the sneaker. If you look at the way it's segmented on there, it kind of reminds me of a 700 outsole in a way because of the segments on it, but it's one of the few plus points on this sneaker. But if a plus point on a sneaker is its outsole, the least seen part of a sneaker after the insole, then that's not good if the plus point is the outsole and only the outsole. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with these guys, see if the Adidas line and the Yeezy line and Yee or whatever Kanye's calling himself these days, you know, see what happens with them. But for me, it's still a bit of a no, not my favorite sneaker, and I don't think if these guys drop even as 380s they're going to go that far. People aren't really going to get behind them. But November the 16th is the scheduled drop date for here in Japan, and also overseas, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that and whether or not they fly. Okay, enough about that. As I do at the end of all of my videos, I do like to drop a little bit about the butter movement, and talk from the butter movement. I gotta tell you, Shoe Butter is full on excited and feeling it. He's starting to feel it. I think he was. The longer he didn't go back and shoot video in the shoe department, the longer it got, you know, and it was one of those things that sort of got bigger than it actually was. And then when he shot that first video back in the shoe department, he was like, hey, I can do this. I remember this. You know, and I think it's all coming back to him. I really hope that he just starts dropping that content like he used to, because it was a great thing to be a part of. I don't know where the butter movement's going. I think that's going to have to be the same as it was last time, in that the people in it just sort of, you know, it was a movement and people kind of grew with it and flew with it. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But I would like your input, people at home, people interested in the butter movement, people who want to be a part of that butter movement and take that butter movement forward. I'd like your input in where you think it should go and what you think it should be, because I'm hearing a lot from people, a lot of comments about what it was. and what they miss about it. But I'm not hearing so much about people saying what they hope it will be and where they hope it will go this time. So I really do rely on you, the viewer out there, to give me information in the comments down below about what you want to see happen with the movement, where you think it should go. I myself have this bizarre little idea in my mind about orphanages in Japan. I did some charity work with a charity called it wasn't Tree of Knowledge, Tree of Hope, I think it was called. God sakes, I can't remember. The charity I worked with, that's terrible. Was it Tree of Hope? Tree of Knowledge? It was neither of those. Playground of Hope, that's what it was called, Playground of Hope. And they first they did work after the big earthquake in 2011, tried to rebuild the northern part of Japan, but then they started doing work with the orphanages around Tokyo. And I've got this dream for a shoe butter movement Tokyo orphanage tie-up that I think would be a great thing to do. But you might have different ideas out there, so please let me know in the comments down below where you would like this butter movement shoe butter tie-up to go, and we'll see what we can do about it. Okay, for now it's time for me to sign off. Thank you guys for checking out my content. I do appreciate it, and I do this every single day. Because I do it every single day, it means at the end of my videos I get to look you straight in the eye, point my finger at you and say, you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.